So AEW just makes pro wrestling better. And of course, pro wrestling to be better also needs WWE and all of these companies. But after last night's AEW Dynamite, I just stared off into the distance and I thought to myself, good grief, isn't it a great time to be a sports entertainment fan? Also, forgive the quick aside as well, but I just want to send thoughts and feelings to Jogo Jota's family. I mean, they'll never watch this in a million years, but I've been reading that story all morning. If you're not aware, he was a current professional football player who just won the Premier League, who passed away in a car accident, it sounds like, early this morning. So, I mean, I don't want to steal anybody's grief or anything, but it did affect me. So I just thought, as I do have a tiny platform, especially when it comes to wrestling and some of the tribalism we do kind of throw around there, let's just try and be nicer to each other. It's fun to get into those arguments and have those back and forth debates, but we don't need to be mean, right? We can just be fans. Even if you're an AEW fan, awesome. If you're a WWE fan, awesome. Life is fleeting and life is terrifying, but life is also great. So let's try and lean into that side of it. Anyway, moving on as best as we can. I just thought last night's AEW Dynamite was a fantastic show in order to get you excited about All In. We can call All In AEW's WrestleMania, given they've sold 20,000 tickets. Hilarious discourse about that. Apparently selling 20,000 tickets these days is a disappointment. If I can ever do anything in my life where 20,000 people will come and see me, I will do the dance of joy. It's not like the event is free. Like, I'm sure maybe I could get 20,000 people to a free event. It's not true. I wouldn't be able to. But people have paid a lot of money. Their gate is like $2.8 million. I just don't really like sometimes the way the expectation bar moves. Of course, we should always put more expectations, to use that word again, on these companies to better themselves and improve. You sell 20,000 tickets for a show when even 7 years ago, we couldn't even believe an independent promotion could do 10,000 for anything. I think we're living in amazing times, which does tie in, but also I love the fact that it's taken the crown as the big AEW event, because that segment between Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page, apart from being totally unhinged, I just thought sold everything wonderfully. Jon Moxley finally showed some emotion. No, he always shows emotion, but he was worried when Hangman Page got his hands on the magical briefcase with the belt in it, and then Hangman and Page buckshot lariats Mina Shafir, who is also emotionally tied to Jon Moxley, to tell him, come all in, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that championship. You think I'm all talk, which is what Jon Moxley had said to him, but I'm not. I am going to walk through the valley of death. Whatever I have to do, I will put my life on the line, and therefore it should be a Texas death match. Now, can't get mad literally at this because they are in Texas. Hangman Adam Page keeps talking about death, so I suppose that works in too. And it is going to be a wrestling match. But this was the first time during the night where I was like, man, isn't it awesome? Because I maybe fell into my own wrestling tropes. I couldn't believe that at a pay-per-view like All In, the main event is going to be a crazy stipulation match. That doesn't make any sense. Don't try and get logic from that. It's 2 + 2 = potato. It's just for whatever reason, the tightrope I had decided to work, and it's gibberish, and it's nonsense. So even in my pathetic, crappy little world, right, all of a sudden they took my ideas and they threw it out the window. And that's what I want. I always want to be surprised. I'm kind of getting off into a tangent here. But if WWE is your big Hollywood promotion, absolutely, and AEW is your small, let's call it, I don't know, movie shot by a bunch of independent but talented filmmakers, that sounds way too disparaging, that's awesome because you can have these two different things. And what I got from WrestleMania this year, I know it was a little bit of a divisive event, but I'm not going to get that from AEW. And now I'm like, whatever I get from All In, I'm not going to get from WWE. It just means I have so much more of a variety of wrestling to watch, and that's what I want as a fan, because I am a massive geek. And there's no two ways that match can't be flubbed up, right? I've seen Jon Moxley in those, and he's crazy. Hangman Adam Page is like king crazy when it comes to the Texas Death Match. And on that kind of a stage, well, it's about escalation, right? The Dark Knight taught us about this. It is going to probably be one of the most vile and brutal and grotesque match that AEW has ever done, but it also kind of justifies all the run-ins, so I like to think that Tony Khan has thought about that too, because the Young Bucks are going to be there, and probably elements of the Don Callis family and other people are going to want to come down. Will Ospreay swerve Strickland, which also will tie into the tag team match they'll have earlier, but now it's perfectly legal, and if the idea is to take you on a roller coaster and keep you guessing who's going to win Jon Moxley, who's going to win Hangman Adam Page, I think it's going to effectively do that after they probably stab each other with forks. So prepare yourself for that. And I also think you can argue this both ways. Some people said it benefits Hangman because now you can have the interference, but he'll have his boys to protect them. Or you can say, well, the potential for shenanigans is now so high, maybe Jon Moxley does squeak away with his title. I think Hangman has been too boisterous about doing this for the fans and how much it means to him for him to lose. And ultimately, for me anyway, in my ridiculous life, a good wrestling show like this that you have put on a pedestal always ends with the babyface doing the thing that the audience wanted, and then the audience can go home happy, unless you have another plan. I mean, it's kind of what WrestleMania 39 did with Cody winning at 40 as opposed to the year before, and that did work. but I kind of feel like we're in a different environment here. It feels like the time to switch things around, especially because Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, and of course Jon Moxley can then enter separate programs. But the way they spoke to each other, the serious nature that they're putting on it to sell you on this idea of the title match, Hangman Adam Page has also gone out of his way to, like I say, make you go, the belt is in here, in this daft briefcase. We need to free it again. It needs to run wild. And yeah, they're doing that stipulation. Now, I believe the last one we saw, I can't remember the last one we saw, but listen, some of the things we have seen, people being thrown onto cinder blocks, blood in people's mouths, seen syringes be plunged into gums, and that's just the start of it. A lot of staples all of the time. So Jon Moxley and Hangman Adam Page and Tony Khan, who I'm sure greenlit this, are well aware of what the fans will expect they are going to see, and you're going to have to deliver. And again, in a 20,000 seat stadium, even if a lot of it is roped off, whatever you want to say, who cares? I think it's going to be pretty special, and I'm very excited about it. And I think everybody involved kind of sold that to the audience. If you don't care, maybe you should. And if it's not for you, there's nothing else they can do now anyway. But I just love the fact that AEW leans in this direction, and I love that if they promote a Texas death match, I now know, given what they've done in the past, it's going to be totally flubbed up. And listen, sometimes WWE does sort of head in that direction too, but I also know on occasion they'll do a more family-friendly version, which is the worst thing I've ever said, but I want that as well. Do you know how fun those matches are, where it kind of feels like people are being hit with toys? They're not. I've been in those kind of matches. They still hurt, but the atmosphere around it is far more friendly. I need that in my wrestling, and AEW can go the other way. You can see what's happening here and why I loved it so much. And it was the main event especially, where I was like, what mad times are we living in? Because if you got into New Japan around about, when did it properly blow up for the third or fourth time? It's probably like 2016, 2017, when also the UK scene blew up. If somebody had told you that Kota Ibushi and Okada, who just smack lumps at each other in New Japan, we're going to be doing this in sort of 6, 7, 8, 9 years time in a Western promotion that wasn't WWE, and being allowed to bring in elements of this and do it again, nobody would have believed it, right? It was a completely different time for professional wrestling, and it's why a lot of people did flock to New Japan, because they were just desperate for something new. As much as I love WWE, I'll always tell you, 2019 was appalling. It's an appalling year. I have to go back and watch it all the time, and you won't believe some of the stuff they did do. But to now be living in a world where you do get this just on free weekly television in the way that we are used to watching wrestling over here in the Western world is totally nuts to me. And you have this match, I mean, it's terrifying to watch, because Kota Ibushi, even though quite clearly he's in better health than he has done in a long time, he's being dropped on his head, he's being punched in the face, and he is doing these stiff kicks to Okada too. It's like Okada knows when he walks in there, I got to go all out now, the irony, because what else am I going to do? Of course, Okada won. This has mostly been put together to, signal the arrival, the return, I should say, of Kenny Omega. So then you get the reuniting of the Golden Lovers. They do a double German suplex. He can now be in Kenny Omega's corner, which obviously offsets anything the Don Callis family is going to do. I just find it crazy that, well, even if Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi had gone to WWE, I'm not 100% sure they would have leaned into the context of their relationship as hard as AEW does. We basically just picked it up out of New Japan and plonked it in there. And seeing Kenny Omega come back now, 2 weeks before All In, after, once again, Okada tried to kill him. A lot of death on AEW shows. It's just, I mean, it's the fact that Okada's even there, the fact that Kenny Omega's even there. Again, if we go back before 2019, if I wanted to see Kenny Omega, I turned on New Japan, or I watched one of the independent shows that was happening, maybe a Ring of Honor, whoever else he worked. I just think it's awesome. I really do. And people say, Simon, you're so positive. Well, that is probably true as well. But you don't have to get taken in by either, is what I'm saying. You really can pick and choose these days. And they are just being presented to you. And I really do feel, especially over the last few months, WWE's gone in their direction. And AEW has gone in their direction too. And AEW will never topple WWE. It just won't happen. WWE is too big. They are a brand, as I always say. My mum doesn't call it wrestling. She calls it WWE because she doesn't know any better. But you can have, I don't even like calling it a number two products. I think that sounds disparaging. But you can have this awesome offshoot of pro wrestling that is kind of doing stuff old school, maybe a bit of ECW in there, a lot of old school New Japan, or Japan wrestling, I should say. And it just means I'm getting my fill every single week. And then you can go out and pick other promotions too, should you so wish. But yeah, when I saw Kenny Omega come out, save Kota Ibushi, and then they celebrate with their arms in the air, like there was just... This was never meant to happen, right? If you go back to 2016, you're watching WWE. It was never meant to happen. And CM Punk was never meant to come back, and all these other things. Stone Cold Steve Austin was never going to have wrestling again. And for a while, I would say a good 15-year period, everyone said, well, you never say never in wrestling. But you didn't really get any of those moments. You're like, well, I can't believe we're here. Now we're getting them all over the place. And I just think it makes it so more exciting. It gives us so much to talk about. And it fanned the flames of the rivalries between the hardcore fans. I don't even call them the hardcore fans, the crazy fans. I mean, a normal fan won't even worry if somebody else doesn't want to watch what they want to watch and they're watching something else. But it kind of went through, the whole episode too, because it now feels like Tony Khan has realized that these casino gauntlets, I hate using these terms, but it's just the easiest way to describe it, could be his Royal Rumble. So let's make sure we have matches for the number 1 and 2 position. Let's make sure we have a men's and women's one to signify the importance. We knew Mark Briscoe was going to be the number 1. We had the number 2 match here, which I like. Man, how many years in the Royal Rumble did we get? Wow, you're number 1. Then number 2 would come out, meh. We don't care about you. Even number 3 should probably be given a bit more of a horn. But, MJF versus Brody King versus AR Fox versus Anthony Bowens. I just thought it was awesome. And I love the way it was booked around Brody King being an absolute psychopath and he's going to kill you. MJF tries to bribe him, so he gets some goofy wrestling for life. Anthony Bowens has his big flurry at the end. AR Fox almost killed himself about 9 times, but he is so damn impressive. And the finish was good too. Like MJF sort of kept running away, eventually gets back in the ring, applies the salt of the earth, he gets a tap-out victory. And now you have to imagine that Mystico is going to be the guy to eliminate him alongside Mark Briscoe, who comes out after this. And it's a great kind of use of somebody like MJF, who is slowly making their way back into the tippity-top scene. He's obviously not going to be with the Hurt Syndicate forever, but it's just something else. I can't even think of the word I'm looking for. It's an extra caveat, it's an extra asterisk that you can throw into that casino gauntlet that's going to make it feel like a big deal, because we know, well, they could do it, I suppose, but unlikely a Will Ospreay, unlikely a Swerve. Obviously, Hangman and John Moxley are tied up. So you need to make sure there are stars in this, and MJF is one of your biggest stars on the roster. So him being in it instantly creates another story, and it gets you more excited for that match. Obviously, afterwards, Jet Speed come out and Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin murdered them. They even said, come back, murder us again. So they did. I have to think, and I said this on What Culture Ups and Downs, my proper review, please do go check that out and subscribe to me and subscribe to them and just interact with all my stuff. I'd massively appreciate it. Patreon.com/Simon316 for our watch-alongs. But you have to imagine that Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight are going to win at All In. It's so difficult to talk about, because if the Hurt Syndicate do win, I'm going to be like, right, so we've just totally murked them. But if they're going to win, they can be murked. That's just how professional wrestling works. So that's interesting, but it does kind of get me intrigued about the tag team title scene, because to take those belts off Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin, what do they do after the fact? I also had this sort of little bugbear. This is me being proper nerdy. We saw the Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland tag team really find their feet as they took on Dralistico and the Beast Mortars. Such a fun match, and ultimately it was to tell you they have the synergy, they have a chemistry. It should be for the tag titles, them versus the Young Bucks. And I don't want to sort of make too many multi-mans, because you can do too many of them. But you could have worked the Hurt Syndicate into it. You could have worked the Jet Speed into it. I just think I like the stakes of the fact that if the Bucks lose, they lose their EVP ship. And I like the fact that Swerve and Will can't challenge for the World Championship for a year. I've seen some people on the internet saying that we should do that. I think that'd be a terrible idea. I don't think you want to take super duper baby faces away for the World Championship. It's kind of what we did with Cody, and people didn't like it for obvious reasons. The Bucks losing their EVP ship doesn't really mean anything, because obviously it's all story based. But to me, the tag title should be the jewel of the industry, or the jewel of the division. So if you're in a tag team, it should always be about that. So I don't know. That's probably me asking for too much, given that where we've come from. I just think in AEW, if you were going to find a slight criticism, the tag team belts sort of a couple of years ago are in a way better position than they are now. And I just think the ultimate stakes are you don't even need a stipulation. The stake is to win the tag team titles. I want to win the tag team titles. That sounds absolutely amazing. And it kind of ties into the FTR heel turn, which has been brilliant. But they've stopped talking about the tag team titles, mostly because they know, we're not going to have a match. It will probably be FTR versus Jet Speed, I think, post All In. And what the Hurt Syndicate do, I don't know. But even seeing Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland come together, have an awesome match, and then challenge the Young Bucks there. Okay, for me personally, I would have liked it if it was the tag team titles. But there are stipulations there, so it raises the stakes. And you could argue it could go both ways. I mean, for me, I lean way more towards the Young Bucks losing here. And then Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland doing something with Hangman and Page for that championship, because that will make it way interesting. Because Swerve doesn't like Hangman, but if he does help or do anything like that, it's only because he's finally realised we do have to stop the Death Riders. But I mean, there's just so much depth to all this stuff. And I know people always say it 99% of the time, AEW doesn't have any stories. Maybe they don't have stories you don't like, but there's a ton of narratives going on right now. Even the Mercedes Moné versus Mina Shirakawa stuff I enjoyed. Great match, lacked jeopardy. You're never going to take the belt off Mercedes this close to All In. But Toni Storm kind of losing her confidence a little bit was like, well, that's interesting. Couldn't even eat her cake. And obviously Mercedes Moné took advantage of that, beats Mina with the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, surprise roll-up, but then attacks Toni Storm again. Now, I will say as a quick offset, AEW falls way too much into the territory of match over, post-match attack, match over, post-match attack. It's like distraction, interference, and confusion. I need a funny name for it to make a counter. We need to back off that a little bit, because it should have been saved for the main event, and Kenny Omega coming back, because of course that's going to be one of the biggest things you do on the show. But even then, Mercedes Moné slowly getting Toni Storm's number number over all of these weeks probably means that Tony Storm is going to win. And again, on an event that big, I think you want to put your babyface over. But you could also argue it the other way, that they're such big stars, you don't just want to do a one and done. You want to make 3 shows out of this and maybe even do something in other countries. I mean, you could do it at Forbidden Door, but that kind of defeats the concept of that show. But if that's the case, you want the heel to win the first one. And if Hangman Adam Page is winning, then you can take something away from the fans elsewhere. So I'm really intrigued to see what they do next week with this. I think if Tony Storm properly whips her ass, and maybe Mira Okada does something too, something to keep an eye on. But I think Mercedes over this last month has totally found herself, gets the character, gets the role, really good at winding up the fans. Obviously, Tony Storm is the character in AEW, so that's fantastic too. So all of a sudden, we're moving into All In. I'm like, well, I want to see that match. I want to see that match. Even the Hurt Syndicate versus Jet Speed, where I fear for Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight's existence, I still have this little bugbear. I'm like, yeah, but I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win. So I'll sit down and put it on, be like, oh my gosh, they won, or they lost, and now a terrible thing is going to happen. And like the MGF, he could win the Gauntlet, right? I think he's going to. I think he's going to get boned by somebody. But that's why I want Hangman to win the belt too. All of a sudden, he's going to have all these contenders, including John Moxley, and that would just make it really, really fun. So just an excellent show of Dynamite. It got me so pumped for this pay-per-view, and it reminded me that wrestling is just great right now. Like, it really, really is. There are so many cool things going on. I think SummerSlam is going to be a great show too. It's a shame they're all packed in together, because of course the weekend after next, 4 shows, my friends. Could you drop me a comment below and let me know how you'd like me to cover that? Do you want me to take a preference? AEW All In will be my #1 show, because they treat it like their WrestleMania. So I think that's only fair. But if I do Saturday night's main event, then that's 2 videos on the same day. Is that too much? We'll talk about Evolution, because we can kind of do that on Monday. You're going to have to give me some guidance, because YouTube doesn't like it when you spam the channel. So I don't know what to do. But that aside, it's just a great time to be a wrestling fan. That sounds like a boring thing to say. People say, oh, Simon's so positive. Or that I want a job, which makes no sense. Someone the other day said, I'm still gunning for a job with WWE. So that's 9 years, almost 10 years of trying. Terrible plan. And AEW started in 2019, so that's 6 years. Terrible plan. Because neither of these things have worked. Maybe I just really enjoy wrestling and I like the platform. Now listen, would I love opportunities with either of them? Of course, but I tell you. I think I would tell you, I would go crazy. But if we go back to the name of the show, Dynamite 300, I thought this was a really good showcase of what AEW is all about. We're going to put on ridiculous matches, crazy party matches. We had the Young Bucks 6-man tag as well, which was just a barrel of laughs. It was so funny because some of the stuff, that powerbomb that Bandito took. Bandito is awesome, by the way. That's why these party matches work. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize, or maybe I did, but now my eyes are wider open, as Creed once said. But yeah, I thought it was a really good flag waving exercise to remind you what AEW is all about. And how they've got to 300 episodes, I don't know. But yeah, it started in 2019. I don't want to do these comparisons. People go, oh man, it's way better than WCW was. It's gone longer, and that is a feather in their cap. But let's not pretend that a bunch of us didn't love WCW back in the day, because we did. It's a shame that WCW died. It's not a good thing. WCW still being around now would have been awesome, because it means you would have had this long-standing legacy company. But it's also the reason why it's great what AEW is here. Because when I think about it, the 2 favorite times I've had as a fan was the Attitude Era, the Monday Night Wars, because of the craziness that was going on. And we get it in a different way now, but I just feel like I can pick anything I want. I get Goldberg's retirement a week Saturday, or is it this Saturday? Whenever the hell it is. That is totally nuts. That's totally nuts, and I am looking forward to it. So yes, I think AEW's on fire right now, doing really, really good stuff, focusing on them, building these characters. Obviously, Hangman Adam Page is an OG, and he's just got to win that championship. And then we should do a bunch of stuff with Swerve and Will. I did see, I can't remember who it was now, somebody quite prominent, then a bunch of people jumped off the back of it. That's how I saw it, because there was a long thread. It was all like, oh, Swerve Strickland's talking too much like a babyface now. We'll keep an eye on that, right? He should always have an edge to him, not Adam Copeland. He's out injured. But Swerve is like a cool dude, and he's a cool dude because he kind of walks by the beat of his own drum. But I'm still not 100% sure we're done with this Swerve Strickland storyline at the moment. Because again, when Will Ospreay said we won't challenge for belts for a year, Swerve looked at him like, well, maybe you could have brought that out with me beforehand. So he's going to not turn. Something is coming, right? Something is coming, and I'm looking forward to it. Great show. Very excited about All In. It's probably going to be 6 hours, which is too long for me, but it doesn't matter. Now, more importantly, some of you won't agree, some of you will. Drop me a comment below and let me know about the schedule as well. Like the video, share the video, subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which is me talking about Seth Rollins. Got a lot of cool feedback about that. Otherwise, patreon.com/Simon316 for watch-alongs, only $5. Grillamine.com/Simon. Get a bunch of money off. Use code Simon. Ships worldwide. Best fitness supplements everywhere. Come say hello on SimonMiller316 on social media. Simon Miller on Cameo for personalized videos. Done a lot of sort of emotional ones recently, which have been kind of crazy, but works for me. Simon J. Miller on TikTok, Pro Wrestling Tees, and BigCartel.com for merch. Bald Life t-shirt is there. It's the best t-shirt I've ever done. More importantly, going back to what I said at the start of the video, Try and enjoy yourself. Speak to people if you're feeling down, if you're feeling sad. Remember, wrestling is the most important, the least important things. We don't need to get mad about it. Even if something is terrible, hey-ho, we move on to the next day. Life is way too important to get worried about something like that. Take care, my friends. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. I mean that. See you soon.